So can our great partners from NBC Telemundo come up, introduce yourselves, and take it away? The stage is all yours. I see them coming up.
Good afternoon. I'm Ana Hernandez, News Director for Telemundo 62, and I couldn't be happier to be surrounded by all these leaders and these amazing trailblazers that are leaders in the newsroom, in media, and in their communities. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm going to do a little introduction of our panelists. We have Siobhan McGirl. She is a general assignment reporter for NBC 10, a South Jersey native. She started with us this year. Go ahead. She came to Philly from the NBC Connecticut, and she earned a bachelor's degree in broadcasting and journalism from Seton Hall University. In her free time, she loves volunteering with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Here with us is Amy Fadool. She's a sports anchor for NBC Sports. You can watch her during Sixers pre- and post-show live and on the anchor's desk for Sportsnet. Amy joined NBC Sports in January of 2009. She attended the University of Connecticut, where she studied broadcast, Kentucky, I'm sorry. Kentucky, ooh.
Don't give me UConn yet. Oh, no UConn.
Where she studied broadcast journalism. Amy is a proud supporter of American Cancer Society.
Thank you, Ana.
And last but not least, we have Shaira Arias. She's a multimedia journalist for NBC 10 and T62. As a bilingual reporter, she's passionate about creating bridges between the Spanish and English-speaking audiences. Shaira graduated from California State University with a bachelor's degree in communication. Born and raised in New York, Shaira comes from a supported Dominican family. In her free time, she enjoys volunteering at local community events. Let's give our panelists a round of applause. So before we move to the questions, by a show of hands, how many of you are actively mentoring or sponsoring women today? That's great. That's amazing. How many of you have felt that it's more difficult for women to get promoted? I can see that. How many of you struggle with work and life balance and burnout?
I mean, come on.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to start with Amy. Working in media and sports, at times you're the only woman in the room. How do you manage that lack of representation in the industry, and how we can support other women in sports, in media, other industries?
That's a great question, Ana. And I feel like though my experience being in sports is probably more visible, people realize that there's sometimes only one woman that's representing a sports office or a sports department. But that's really true for a lot of different industries. Finance, I know, is another big one, anything in the sciences. But it's really something you kind of learn right away, and you realize that you're kind of that flag bearer, so to speak. And I think it's an important role. I don't look at it as like, oh, maybe I'm an only woman in my various stops before this, and I know the ladies next to me had this experience probably too. You know, you have so many different markets that you're in when you're growing up and coming up in this industry. And I worked primarily in the South before this, and I really was the only woman, sometimes in the entire television market, that did sports. And so that you felt like that need to prove yourself, but I feel like as women we feel that anyway. I think that's just inherent in us. And so, yeah, I mean, it's hard sometimes to not have that touchstone of a person that kind of looks like you or knows what your experiences have been, to be able to relate to them. But that's why your support system is that much more important. And so you really rely on some of the people outside, friends, family, different people like that. And then you do find advocates, within your own newsroom and content rooms and sports departments, whether they're male or female. And I think that's really important because you are seen, you are appreciated, even if it doesn't feel like it sometimes. I know we've all been out there and you thought, that was a really crappy day, and tomorrow's going to be better. And there are people out there that see you and support you. And I think that's one of the things that I've really tried to now, coming up on my 16th year in NBC Sports Philadelphia, but I've just passed 20 years overall, to try to seek those people out and try to be kind of a person that they know that they can come to. So when you're talking about supporting someone else, I don't want anybody else to feel like they're alone. I often like to say I force my friendships on people. Either way, I will be here. You don't have to always take it, but I always make sure that I want to make them feel comfortable and make them feel seen.
That's a great answer. Siobhan, have you drawn professional inspiration from other women who inspire you, and why it's so important to have that inspiration?
So many women have inspired me. I feel so lucky that I've had such inspiration. How many of you guys feel the same way? You've had so many women who inspire you, right? I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about my mom first. When I was growing up, I was just 10, and my dad received a pretty difficult diagnosis. And my mom, a mom of 4, had to go get a couple part-time jobs and go back to school. She earned her degree, and she rocked it. She's currently rocking it. And I get to learn from her every day and see her strength, how she tackles challenges in her career, at home, with grace, with strength, with her intelligence, with critical thinking, understanding. So I draw a lot of inspiration from my mom just to see what she was able to do. In our careers, of course, we are kind of lucky where we get to look at a TV screen and we also get to draw inspiration from women. So I grew up getting to watch Diane Sawyer and Christiane Amanpour and all of these incredible trailblazing women. And I don't take it for granted that they had to break barriers and be strong so that me, a little girl in South Jersey, could look at the TV and say, I could do that one day. So I draw a lot of inspiration from that courage. Just driving here, I was thinking about all the women who inspire me. Mrs. Zuccarelli, my teacher at Gloucester Catholic High School, who looked at me and said, I see a strength in you. I think you should try this journalism thing. I think about her selfless leadership to look for a strength in someone else like that and inspire growth in that way. Of course, here at NBC 10 and Telemundo 62 and all of the incredible women who lead us, my colleagues, so I get to work alongside. I could go on and on and on, but I do challenge all of you to take some time today, tonight, and go maybe just pull out your phone and your notes app and write down some of the women who inspire you, why they inspire you, because to your point, why it's important, I think it reminds us, it kind of centers us. And it reminds us of all of the great examples around you, how you got where you are, maybe values that slipped your mind that you should bring back to the forefront. And it just inspires growth. So I had a lot of fun driving down here thinking of all of the women who inspire me. So thanks for the question.
Sure. So Shaira, as a Latina journalist, you face very specific challenges, different intersections. How do you build confidence and resilience over the course of your career?
Well, Anna, thank you for the question. And first and foremost, thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm really excited. So when I think of confidence, I really do think about my mom and my dad. Because I feel like it just comes from the household as soon as you're little. They're the first ones to tell you, you can be anything you want to be. So you know, if you're fortunate, which I feel like a lot of us are, to have that kind of upbringing, you start really believing it. So then you go into college and you step into the real world and you have a job. Sometimes your mom and dad might not be there all the time, or maybe they weren't even there to begin with, to tell you that you can do this, that you can be the best at what you're doing, that you can be anything you want, you can get that promotion. So now you really have to rely on yourself, right? So I think for me, building confidence is that I've been responsible about taking all the classes that I needed to take, making sure that I took every course. If I'm thinking now, which I do think about it, going for a master's. I feel like all those little tools are really gonna help me build confidence and know I am taking the right steps to feel confident. But that's just the practice of it, right? Then you have the emotional and the mental part of it. And I think that what comes into play with that is that you have to also draw the energies from people around you. Sometimes you have a great boss. This is actually my boss, Anna. And when you have people that believe in you, you know in yourself, you know, today was a great newscast. I did really well because she said this, she said that. I'm getting this opportunity to do this. I'm getting to anchor, so I'm doing well. Why should I not be confident about where I'm going and how I'm perceiving things and how I feel about things? And the most important thing for me is also understanding that there's a difference between being confident and being just arrogant. And I think that when you start thinking that you are literally the best or that you are better than other people, it doesn't really allow you to be the best version of yourself because you're so entertained, or you're paying so much attention to trying to convince everybody that you're really good at what you're doing. But if you just wake up in the morning and you understand that this is the plan that God has paid for you, and you just have to do the best that you can, I think that confidence kind of grows naturally, and your work day, your life in general, just starts to pave its way on its own because you have that positive vibe without being too arrogant about things and not thinking so much about yourself, but how you're also helping others in your work environment.
Yeah, having that confidence is so important. It also is important, how do we stay motivated, Amy? How do we keep being motivated even when things are tough, things are difficult?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, the self-motivation, I think, is a real big part of it. You don't get to be certain levels of any career unless you really have that drive, that self-motivation. But there are days that are certainly hard. I mean, listen, these women talk about serious stories. I'm telling you that the Phillies, won the National League East for the first time in 13 years.
Bring happiness.
Yes, shout out. But I mean, so it's not like my hard days are never that hard. We do have difficult stories that we do have to cover, don't get me wrong. Sports does cross a lot of different things, but there are tough days that maybe have outside sources, right? Whether it's, interpersonal relationships or something going on at home. So each day you have to wake up, and I think Shaira said it really well, like you wake up and think, this is what I'm supposed to do today. And I want to make the best version of myself for that day. It really does come from a good place. It starts, like so many people, starts with that confidence at home that people could tell you and believed in you. But really, at some point, it's yourself. And I think the motivation comes from wanting to be the best version of yourself. And for your family, for your friends, you don't want to let other people down at work. I think that's a big motivator for me personally. I really just want the whole of NBC Sports Philadelphia in this case, and then the greater of NBC, to do well. It looks well upon me personally if everybody does well. And that's true for being a part of any team. I really, I've always enjoyed being part of a team. Obviously, I love sports, but the analogy is a valid one. When you're part of a team, you really can reap that kind of reward, and that helps motivate you.
We have new leaders in this room. What advice do you have, Siobhan, for new leaders or maybe people that are thinking of changing careers, starting over?
Well, to echo our last phenomenal speaker, go for it. But to add on to it, do your research before you go for it and make sure you're ready to put in the hard work. My first job in news, I look back and I kind of giggle because I sent an email to the news director of my first news station that I worked for. And I said in the subject line, your next reporter, hungry and ready to tell stories. And then in the end of the email, I said, I have story ideas, call me. Well, as soon as I sent the email, I went and did a lot of research and read all of these agendas for different towns in the county, and I came up with story ideas, and they called me, and I was able to have the research to back it up. So I would definitely say, again, go for it and make sure you're putting in the work behind it. Keep an open mind. I think the key is to always have an appetite for learning. In any job you take on, I think it's the beauty of being reporters because we get to learn something new every day. It keeps it fun. It makes sure it never gets boring because you're always learning something new. There's also going to be a lot of institutional knowledge around you and a lot of people who have done this. They've done it for years, for decades in some cases. Ask them questions, pick their brains, get to know where their challenges were, how they overcame challenges. So always keep that open mind in whatever challenge you're tackling and in your career. And then lastly, I would just say, I feel like there's never been a problem too big that I can't solve if I just make sure I walk in with a positive attitude, an eagerness to work together, and strong communication. I feel like if you keep that at the center and remember those things, then we can tackle the big challenges that seem really big and scary. But positive attitude, because the energy, you talked about that, we all talked about the energy, right? It's so important, and it can totally set the tone. So make sure to keep that positive attitude and just be a good communicator.
I love that. Shaira, as women, we face cliff ceilings, glass ceilings, imposter syndrome, bottlenecks, you name it. How do you overcome those challenges?
I love this question because I remember the first time I heard of imposter syndrome, and I was like, what is that? And then I learned about it. I was like, that's so silly. And then 5 minutes later, I was like, wait, do I have imposter syndrome? This is so real. And then it just started playing in my mind. I was like, imposter syndrome, okay. What does this even mean? And then I started thinking about maybe we all have a little bit of it. And I think that it all starts to happen when you might get a promotion, or when somebody starts really believing you in work, and you're just like, no, I don't know how to do that. I don't know why she would think that I can do that. And then you continue to move forward in your career, and you still, every single time that you move forward, you have again that sense of imposter syndrome. Like, can I do this? Am I really the person that is qualified for this position? And then I go back and I think about the fact that God would never put you in a position at work or in life that you either don't deserve or you can't handle. So I understood that even if you think like you can't do the job, there's this bigger thing that believes that not only can you do it, but that it's actually meant for you. And then I also think about, fake it till you make it. I don't think that anybody is faking it till they make it. I think that everybody's just making it, right? So you're going through all these hurdles and things, and you're like, I'm just gonna fake it till I make it. I'm gonna go into this meeting. I'm gonna act like I know what I'm talking about. No, you know what you're talking about, because that's why you were called to this meeting. And you went through the meeting, and the meeting went great because you knew what you were doing. It's not that you're faking it. You're just literally making it, and you're learning as you go along. But I think that was like one of my favorite questions, by the way.
Okay, so I think I have a little bit of time for a lightning round, very quickly. What's the best and worst advice on leadership that you ever got from someone? Best and worst. You can start, Amy.
Best advice, availability is the best ability. It was, and I use it when I go and I speak, just try to say yes as much as you can. Open yourself to those opportunities, whatever they may be, even if it seems like something you might not know, or you think you're not qualified for because of whatever imposter syndrome you think you have or don't have. But just open yourself up for that. Be available. Be open to the idea. The worst advice, I probably ignored it. It's probably terrible, and I probably I don't know. But worst advice would be just don't listen to yourself. I think that would be terrible advice.
Listen. You don't always have to be the loudest voice in the room. Identify strengths in others. I don't have a piece of worse advice because I think I've also just ignored it and it's out of there. But I will say, whenever you do get to a point where you've excelled enough in your career, do not forget the people who helped you become the leader you are, and make sure you turn around and you are that leader to others and you help the next person up the ladder. Always make sure you're giving back in that way.
I think the best advice, I got it in the first newsroom that I was in, which was in Los Angeles, and it was from my executive producer at the time. And she told me, Shaira, don't pay attention to other people's careers. Don't compare yourself. Don't think that because this person got this story or this person is doing this, then those are the things that you should be looking out for. Or don't be jealous of if somebody else gets a promotion and you didn't get a promotion. Just focus on yourself, because when you start looking at what everybody else is doing around you, that is exactly when you forget about you. So maybe you were supposed to go further on in life, but you were so attentive and paying attention to the other person that works next to you that you didn't realize that you were just wasting time and looking at what the other person is doing when you could have excelled maybe even faster. So you are you, and worry about yourself, and the doors will start opening on their own. As far as the worst advice, I probably did not pay attention because I can filter bad information right away, I will turn off my brain and be like, you're giving me bad vibes, I'm done with you. So, so that definitely happens.
Exactly.
So I just have to say thank you so much for sharing your stories. Thank you so much for leading the way you do in our newsrooms. We're so proud of you. We love working with all of you. Thank you so much. We are moving to the expo area, so you can come and meet us and share your stories and just ask questions if you have any questions. Thank you so much. Keep leading with
Thank you, guys.
passion.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
That was incredible. That was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
We're so proud for how you all show up for us each and every day in media, which is so important to have these great role models out there for all of us. And you are so true when you say, if you see it, you can be it. And you are examples of that for future generations to come. Thank you so much. Visit them in the exhibit room. And that is a great entree to the fact that we've come to the close of this morning's first session, which has been extraordinarily incredible. Okay, I know I'm hyped up. I hope you are also. Please visit the exhibit room. There's coffee break. However, we want to get you to your breakout sessions too. They're going to be starting about 1:15. Try and get to those breakout rooms. The rooms, take the map in your program. They're off to this side. At 3:30, as I said earlier, there'll be some networking time and a snack back at the exhibit room. Don't forget our cocktail reception tonight. And then please, please come back to this room promptly for 4 p.m. where we have another exciting, amazing panel of speakers to close out today. Everybody, thanks for a great morning. Continue to have a great day.